The natural state is the state of bliss. It's absolute state where the laws of universe is functioning, or you are in the Garden of Eden, so to speak. The mind is free, no mind, empty mind, and you can see, hear, smell, touch, and taste, and know what's going on as it is. It's a natural state, nature's way. Everything is changing. Trees are growing, birds are singing, clouds are moving, skies are there. I can hear the sound of the wind and creaking sound of my chair behind. I have the sense in the body sensation, some pressure on my leg and vibration within. Sense of transparency, there's no stiffness. The muscle is gentle and relaxed. It's almost like a floating. So one may think this is like a delusionary state that I'm into some spaced out space, or some may think this is the original state of who we are, because we sense the law of universe functioning. No word, no logic, no causality, but as it isness of being. And there's this awareness, the state of awareness. And you can use such sentence like, I am aware that I am aware. If I start to use my mind, I can get me into a corner, like a trouble almost. There are issues that I can put my mind into it and work on it because there's something to be done. That's how I developed my career work for the purpose of continuous improvement and waste elimination and appreciation of the people's talent. But reflecting back, that's lots of mind play, except there's the moment of challenge into the limitation of the mind to come up with a creative idea. Plan, do, check, act, starting with check, what's going on, understand what's going on, and develop a plan by synthesizing ideas, coming up with new idea, and execute, and then go through plan, do, check, act, back and forth, over and over. At the deeper level, however, there's the sila, samadhi, panna. I think that's a Pali word in India. Sila is right conduct. Samadhi is calm and quiet mind, just simply saying. And panna is wisdom. So compared to PDCA, you may think this is more of a deeper level, even spiritual level. So that's the notion from the Buddhism, Kaijo-e in Japanese, Sila, Samadhi, Panna, spread out. So as we live, we can connect to the source to come up with the wisdom, and the PDCA may reflect that in our mind. So there's a mind connected to the source. We should find the connection and bridge the gap. Because if we only live in the mind, there's a limitation. And the gap created between the mind and body, or mind and heart. Deeper suffering is when we hit the wall, the mind cannot solve the problem. So, man's extremity is God's opportunity. Extremity typically come with the suffering. You cannot go anywhere. Cul-de-sac situation. But as I mentioned somewhere, the bird in the cage, the door may be open. That's awakening. And then the connection. When we are at no mind, peaceful state, or even blissful, because you can feel empty or transparency sense, or vast stillness, emptiness within yourself, that nothing prevents you. It's kind of like wind is blowing through your body. Yet you are aware. There's pure awareness, and there's not much energy used in the state of being, the natural state. The natural state is the term Nisargadatta talk about, and you can find that information in his book when someone compiled his words in the book called I Am That. You can find it on the internet. So yesterday I had some headaches, meaning that trouble in my mind. And today, right now, I don't have one. So I can spend time almost appreciating, purely appreciating to the fact that I can connect to the natural state. You wouldn't know, anybody may not know that I'm at the state, because it's a subjective experience. But I found it, and I mentioned about waku, the sense of aliveness. Waku is the sound of spring water coming out of the ground. So it's almost like an infinite source of energy spreading out. And you have that sense, which I developed more vividly after my meditation experience in vipassana, the first retreat 22 years ago. I had a severe pain. I couldn't get out of it, the physical pain, but realized later it was mind-generated pain because I was trying to get out of the pain. So after severe pain lasting many hours, day after day, they call it adittan, which is focused attention, pretty much go through this sitting for 1.5 hours straight, a few times a day. And that puts you into such a state that I had so much pain. But when I thought, is it because I'm trying to escape from the pain that's causing the pain? Something happened. That's 22 years ago. And since then I have this sense of vibration, high frequency. Daisetz Suzuki talk about his expression is touching the live wire. It's a sense of connection of who we are, the original state, natural state. And you can use the word like a blissful state. It doesn't go away. And you're aware, and the point in this case Nisargadatta talks about, and many of those spiritual leaders talk about, is that it is our original being. I want to use the word the being state at the Garden of Eden before we ate up the knowledge, to start use mind but get lost from the state of original being because we start living our mind and not connected to the root of our being. So with the connection, utilizing the resource, the energy, we can be experiencing life and moving on as if riding the flow or the wave of universe. And I may be able to say I am like in that state. I take this opportunity to do this because I'm more centered or concerned about the issues in my mind. So that occupies a fair amount of my time. So that's the percentage figure I can put, that it could be high as 90% or more at one point in time, perhaps in my life. Or since I'm resting, maybe it's not that high. Eckhart Tolle talk about, and the Zen monk talk about, when we start to know who we are really and then connect to that, then the need to use energy to use your mind get less and less, in such a manner that only mostly 80% of the time we may have this state of no mind, but pure awareness of what's going on. And I'm so connected to that by starting to practice. I call it 80% rule. And maybe because of my state of being alone and 73 years old, pretty much retired, so I can have time. But young people can do the same. And many go through like a vipassana and go through awakening experience and start to take a journey, the spiritual journey, farther. I call it sometimes the hero's journey. It is always new, and the hero is ourselves. And myself, you cannot see it, but possibly by using word or giving the references, we may be able to communicate. But essentially, the journey is more of our own, to know internally who we are and find a way to live as we may be meant to live, having our own destiny, the master of our destiny we can be. So this waku sensation I posted elsewhere is one of the gauge of aliveness, which may represent the state of how close or how much we are in that natural state, where I use the word "thy will be done." It's being manifested constantly. It's the miracle of us being able to live, but it's not our power. The power comes from the other God, you can call it, or the nature or the universe, how it functions. So, like Daisetz says, this is more related to Zen, but the purpose of the Zen is to know the principle of how the universe functions. It's a subjective experience. The subjectivity is truth. It's Kierkegaard's word. I am uncertain about his inner being, but I sense he may be talking the same, as much as Nisargadatta or Zen monk Dogen or Rinzai or many others, and from the Christian Meister Eckhart or even Brother Lawrence, connecting him with the God is the main purpose, and how he lived such a peaceful time. Eckhart Tolle went through his own experience and realized that this 80%, most of the time he's got, is in the state of awareness of being, and the blissful state, so that he said, I think 8 years after that experience, he was just sitting at the bench or not doing much. But by listening to him, I think he is aware of Nisargadatta, but that I noticed by him using some of the expression from Nisargadatta. Actually, Tori was talking about a person had this habitual pattern of smoking and died. And that's what the Nisargadatta did. I don't know why. He knew he may not be doing the right thing, but he was comfortable. And perhaps he's in the space where life and death is melting together in the state of being. So the mind, it's not carrying the heavy burden, but free, liberated. So as much as I talk like this, and I feel this sensation of waku waku or blissful sense, it sounds like a self or auto-suggestion or self-hypnosis. I'm not certain what's the word to characterize this. But from every which direction, from the Buddhism or Taoism or Christianity, Hinduism and all of that, there's the same element. Us being human and having the same construct. I think it's a very believable thing. So, what's the point of this discussion or self-talk? To me, it is to appreciate more when I have those blissful sensations from the state of being, the now, having that awareness of being in the state, natural state. As simple as that. I'm used to work from fairly early days to accomplish something and chase my dream. It was fun, enjoyable, challenging, ups and downs, and gained some reputation or whatever, some financial reward or fame. That was one phase of my life. I don't know if it's related to my aging, but also perhaps related to my personal curiosity to experience life in various ways. I have spent last 40 some years into spiritual pursuit and have been posting lots of YouTube videos, mainly for my own purpose to monitor how I'm doing, how I find the wisdom, how I overcome the delusional thought and suffering. Now I'm spending time just looking at who I am, connecting to the source, the state of being, here and now, and appreciating what's going on as it is. I watched the news on Ukraine, and I have issues I have to deal with in business or visa, and I am unsure about the future, but that's life. I have a friend, I was just talking with her. She goes through the same, and we talk about what I call that new hero's journey, the journey of how we process and have the destiny to be the master and move on. The environment change, we change, but we can connect to the source, align our activity with it, and then have a moment to appreciate the time, the space, the sense, the wind breeze passing through the room, sound of cicada and chime, wind chime. The sound of ocean is far away. Whatever, whenever the situation you have, the notion of wu-wei, no action, is quite interesting. It's very foreign for us in the modern day world to take no action. But that's an interesting way of find who we are. Lots of puzzling questions may pop up, paradoxical, unfamiliar. But given the situation of what we got in the world and individually, each looking for ways navigating life well, relationship, work, hobby, and all of that, financial concerns. But let's keep this spirit of inquiry into our own and move with the idea I call it New Hero's Journey. You may be alone, internally more focused, but there may be occasions like appreciating life, accompanied by the blissful sensation, yet challenge here and there with energy and sense of waku, aliveness, as if that's the gauge of how we monitor how we are alive, and to move on. If you listen to this part, thank you for listening. This is a self-talk. I feel always like, well, maybe not always, but kind of like talking to the dark universe. But maybe my realization is I'm talking to my state, natural state, talking to the source of thy will be done, to appreciate where I am and what's going on as it is.